How to solve cash flow problems in a business. Most business owners actually don't have a cash flow problem, they have a control problem. So you fix this, you fix everything else. Austin owned 3 businesses and yet was 1 month from bankruptcy. This one system saved everything. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a 3-step system to stop bleeding cash and start controlling every dollar that comes in and goes out. First thing we need to do is come to a video like this and just acknowledge, Houston, we have a problem as it relates to cash flow. So I do want to congratulate you up front for just going, hey, I got a cash flow problem and I need help. You've come to the right place. Before we dive into all the tactics to solve cash flow, which I do have some that I think will be incredibly helpful for you, one thing that I do want to uncover and bring light to is the reality that money has its own behavior, and if we're not careful, money can begin to control us. And I've actually watched as people have grown older and older and older, they become so consumed with money, they become inward and they stop blocking everything out. Money's got this strange behavior and it can have a strange hold on people. And so we want to acknowledge that up front, shed light on that. So instead of money controlling you, you can control the money. Another way to put it is money is very close to the heart. And if we don't cut some of it off from time to time, it'll start to corrode our heart in everything that we do. And so let's put ourselves in the driver's seat rather than money driving the car and we're hogtied in the trunk. I want to tell you about a story of a business owner we worked with for quite some time. Somebody probably just like you, just kind of walked around, married, kids, lived in a small town, owned a business that grew, but he had a disease. And it's the disease we call the I own this, and this disease. And what we mean by that is we meet with people all the time and they're like, yeah, I do this and I've got this business and this business and this business. And we're like, whoa, totally fractured. There are some people on this earth who have been built to be serial entrepreneurs and they've got teams set up for each one of these things. But I own this, and this disease usually comes with both I own this, and this, and I run this, and this every single day. And so you're completely overwhelmed and this disease has got you beat down to where you're not available to the places you need to be. And not only that, many times we need to cut those other things off and pour all of our energy and effort into that one thing. So in that example with the client we were working with, that disease led to an overextension of cash, which is what helped to create the cash flow problems. Because when we looked at the core business that he kind of drove everything, there was enough revenue to be able to run a business easily and to be profitable. And because he had I own this, and this disease, he was taking money from the core business and putting it into what a friend of mine has called profitable distractions. There are some businesses that may show a profit, but they're a distraction from the core of what we're trying to do. And many times that'll lead us into cash flow problems. So there are 3 things we're going to talk about on how to solve cash flow in a business. The first is we need to take control of the cash rather than the cash controlling us. Remember, many of us are hogtied in the trunk. We got to get out and get in the driver's seat. So tactically, how do we do that? Number 1 is that we subdivide every dollar that comes into the business. What do I mean by that? When you get a receivable, I want you to take that receivable, put it in one bank account, and that's your all-income bank account. From there, we're going to cut that receivable up and put it into separate homes. We're going to put it in a profit home, and a tax home, operating expense, capital expense, cost of goods. And so we're going to split that dollar up. Well, Scott, I can do that on a spreadsheet. Yes, but wait, you won't because you haven't. And so I want you to do something different. This is a psychological game. It's not like this snake oil strategy. It's a psychological game to where when we take the dollar and cut up this portion into cost of goods, this portion into tax, now we have clarity of mind as to where that money goes. I had a client who avoided doing this, ran about a $15 million business at the time that I asked him to do this, subdivide all of his bank accounts, grew the business to about $45 million, which you can easily do without subdividing your bank accounts. But then he came back to me at $45 million and he goes, I get it. He had been trying to do this on spreadsheets that entire time and had more chaos. And what really flipped the switch for him is he ended up owing a $650,000 tax bill that he was not ready for. So he came back and he goes, let's subdivide those bank accounts. And since then, he has never had any question about what he owes in taxes, what he wants to reinvest back in the business. So we want to control our cash by cutting it up and placing it in separate homes. The second thing we want to do is we want to track our slim pants. What in the world does that mean? All right, you ready? So it's a whole acronym, SLIM and then PANTS. The SLIM part of what we're going to do, SLIM, we're going to pay attention to our schedule, labor, our inventory, and our mistakes. What do I mean by that? Well, scheduling is life in most of business, especially if you're in things like contractor space. We tell our contractors all the time, you realize you're not a builder. you don't build anything. In fact, the tools of your trade are not hammers and nails, they're calculators and calendars. Your business is all about scheduling, because if you push the schedule, that means you push the billing, but your overhead stays the same every month. We've got to pay attention to the schedule and what we're doing. And then, of course, the labor of how we're doing it, the inventory, and tracking mistakes. There are a lot of people that spend about 1 to 4% of their total revenue a year, and they're totally unaware of it. Why? Is because they're using it to cover their warranty or mistakes, and they never have a budget for it. So we're going to be slim on that side, and then from the pants side of it, we're going to pay attention to our pricing. We're going to pay attention to the speed of our accounts receivable and accounts payable. So pricing, accounts. Then from a capital expense standpoint, the N is new equipment that we want to reinvest back. The T is for taxes, and the S is for servicing debt. So let's go back through that again. Slim pants, pay attention to your schedule, labor, inventory mistakes, and then your pants, pricing, ARAP, new equipment or new investments into the business, taxes, and servicing debt. If you can start to have that framework and literally build a spreadsheet to start tracking those things every week, where are we at in line of our schedule? Where are we at with our labor numbers? You can even have a separate labor account if you've got a big labor pool into your business to show where payroll comes out of. So you can track that as a function of total revenue. But you will not pay attention to these things, A, if you're not aligning your cash accounts with them, and B, if you're not tracking them. So we want to track our slim pants. Out of the slim pants, there's 3 things I want to highlight. Number 1, I've already talked about scheduling. You've got to obsess about your scheduling. But the second thing I want to talk about is your pricing. There are too many of us that go into the market and we're afraid to set appropriate price models on things because we're afraid that nobody's going to buy our stuff. The reality is you can price yourself out of the market. You can also price yourself under the market. I'll never forget, 2 friends of mine ran a photography business in South Carolina, and they were running packages at about $1,800 for weddings on a weekend. And they were wondering why they weren't getting phone calls. And they got a friend to tell them, your prices are way too low. So they tripled their prices and immediately, within the next couple months, booked up 45 wedding engagements over the next 13 months, all because they tripled their pricing. We've got to be aware of our pricing. There's an old adage that a dear mentor of mine, Dan Miller, used to say. He said, Scott, if people aren't paying, they're not paying attention. And so part of you paying for this video is with your attention. And so you're investing something that's valuable to you in this video. And so it gives me encouragement that you'll actually go take action and implement this thing. But you need to go look at your pricing. Do you need to increase it? Step by step, time over time is what that looks like. We've doubled our pricing since we've started. And guess what? We're still undervalued into what we offer. The third thing that I want to highlight out of the slim pants that people usually don't put enough emphasis on in solving their cash flow in the business is this: servicing debt. There are too many of you that have these revolving lines of credit, and it's just this safety money that's not yours. The problem is you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about the money you owe for people that you want to get out of at some point, but it's so easy to get back into. We do a lot of speaking at these expos and shows that have education around the country, and we'll walk through the booth area, and I am amazed at the number of hard money lenders that's set up at every expo, every trade show, and the lines of people that they have, of people just going, hey, I don't want to do the hard work of solving this over here, so I'll just go get a revolving line of credit. Listen, I'm not mad at you. The reality is you don't have to live life with that. You can have a profitable business without this recurring debt over and over and over again, and it's sucked the life out of your profitability, and it's forcing you to lean on the bank for cash flow rather than leaning on the business for cash flow. And so we can solve that problem if we add another bank account. So if we add what I call a PLOC bank account, or a personal line of credit. What in the world does that mean? That means that over time, when a receivable comes in, we're going to take 30%, put it in cost of goods, or whatever your cost of goods are. We're going to take 20%, put it in operating expense, 8% put it in tax, 8% put it in profit, whatever the percentages are, and then we're going to take a percentage and put it in the PLOC account. And over the course of 12 months and 24 months, you're going to build up a cash account that you can start front-loading projects. You can start front-loading customer things with your own money rather than having to go to the bank for a revolving line of credit. Another big monster in solving the cash flow problem in your business is to communicate weekly about it. Set a once weekly, agenda-driven, leader-led meeting where all you talk about is cash flow. You talk and you take a look at your subdivided bank accounts. You take a look at tracking your ABCs. In fact, I want to encourage you to go watch another video that I did on this where you can subdivide your bank accounts, track your accounts, your bookkeeping, and your customers. In fact, I want you to go watch another video that I provided for you called How to Deal with Cash Flow Problems in a Small Business, because I'm going to walk you step by step through the subdividing bank accounts, the tracking the dashboard of the ABCs so you can have that down. So in your communicating weekly, if you start to look at those every single week, I've got an architect client that they do an aging report review once a month where they'll actually sit down monthly, they'll pull up everything that is owed to them from outstanding receivables and customers, and they'll begin to walk through those. Anything within 30 days, they're good. Anything outside of 30 days, they start putting a plan together to follow up and collect on those things, and they have one point of contact for being able to do that. Too many of us are just winging it as it relates to the cash. The cash is the fuel in your business. It is to activate. That's what it means. And so if we don't have cash in the business, or if we have other people's cash in the business, meaning the banks and borrowing money, then we're not able to get the fuel that we need to be able to run that business, and we will perpetually be in cash flow problems. I've got a free gift for you that I think is going to be super helpful in solving your cash flow problems. If you go to solvecashflow.com, our team has built an entire handbook that'll walk you through subdivided bank accounts, your tracking dashboards, your timing around those things, so you've got a tool to be able to go implement so that you can be liberated from cash flow chaos and make time for the things that matter most.